got you. We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
As you can tell, last year it was an off year, but we reloaded and now it is our boss year. Seated back there and yeah, we got the badger. Don't forget Marshawn and don't forget the pass rush. Jameis QB1 dropping down to MT. Ball handed off the Alvin with the quick feet. So when you see the Saints marching, yeah, we gon' trouble you. At the Super Bowl party eating on them doubles. We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Another episode of NewOrleans.Football podcast. Joined as always by my co-host, Kevin Washington. I'm Nick Underhill. Appreciate you guys listening to this. Those that are watching live, those that are catching it on demand. We got a lot of love for all you guys. And back after our little hiatus, it feels good to be back in the chair here. We're back in this thing and coming for the crown, I guess. Shout out to Bun.
Shout out to Bun, man. Hey, is your favorite part? I think my favorite part of the song is like when you do like Alvin. Pew!
Yeah, it's got to
be me every time, bro.
100%.
Love that part, man. Shout out to Bun. Shout out to Bun. Glad to
my
be
favorite,
back.
my favorite part of the podcast is showing out people that support us. So if you are a business owner needing some guidance with your daily accounting, Daniel Stant CPA can help get your finances in order. They provide relevant accounting information, detailed analysis, and clear communication in a timely manner. Call today, 318-321-2765, or visit stantcpa.com. That information is in the show notes. And if you are someone needing legal help with any of the following: car wrecks, offshore injuries, 18-wheeler collisions, Maritime and Jones Act, hurricane and storm claims, you better call Bado at 504-323-4777 or 985-677-1085 for your free consultation and case review. That is badolaw.com. And shout out to our guys, Firehouse Subs, Vets Boulevard location, best sandwiches in the city. Go check them out. I personally think it's the best Firehouse Subs in America, but that's up to you. So go try it, decide, and find out for yourself.
No bias at all there.
Also, if you are a business owner, our presenting sponsorship is coming open. It's our premium ad package. We rep for our people. So if you are interested in acquiring that, hit us up soon. It's going to sell fast. NOF@NewOrleans.Football. Send us an email. Let us know you want it. We'll get you all the information you need. Today's show, we are talking about the players the Saints should extend. There's some big decisions coming up for this team. Marcus Davenport, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Erik McCoy. They got to figure out what to do with all these guys and some more. So we're going to run through all those. And camp starts in 15 days. So football's coming up soon.
Man, 2 weeks, bro.
It's
here. Football is pretty much here.
I'm excited. Last year, look, I'll just say it, like last year was kind of ass. Like the whole season was kind of ass. Like you had the Jameis and Taysom battle in camp, and then everything from there was kind of like downhill in terms of like excitement. There were so many injuries. The hurricane hit. The offense was trash. It was a horrible team. Really, like if we're being real, it was a horrible team to watch on the offensive side of the ball. It was not fun, really, at any point after that Jacksonville game. The offensive style they played was boring. The players they surrounded Jameis with weren't good. I think all those things are going to change. I am extremely excited to see a team that's at least going to try to do a little bit more on offense this year. And I can't wait to see it. Like I just don't think that they can operate like they did last season. It's not going to be a feasible approach, and I don't see it coming. So I'm excited to see a team with competent pass catchers and a different approach on offense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there is this season. I think a lot of the excitement comes from what we just watched last year, and you knowing that there's going to be some more explosive plays. Hopefully you get to see more Jameis, you get more,
Mike
he's
Thomas.
Mike Thomas, exactly, the players that's coming back, right? And so I think when you put it against what we saw last year, I think that's one reason. Another reason why I'm super excited about this season is, it's kind of hard to pinpoint the expectations, right? Are they a fringe playoff team? Are they a deep playoff team? Right? It's just I feel like there is a range of possibilities. When you take a step back and look at where this team could finish, right? On, I mean, just when you look at the defense, just based off the defense alone, they are competitive with any team in the NFL, right? Just based on last year, right? Just every game, the defense pretty much kept them in the game, and the offense kind of was going against that. And so this year, if the offense is even, middle of the road compared to what your defense stays the same, then you're basically in every game, and that's a team that can go as far as that one side of the ball can take them, right? Or does the defense take a step back and the offense take a step forward? So I just think that there's a lot of different possibilities when you look at how this season can end up. And that's exciting, right? That's exciting. The previous years, it was like Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl every year. And that's fun because you want to see a competitive team. And last year, the expectations were high. But this year, I feel like, a lot of that stuff can come to fruition. And yeah, it's a fun team to watch. And I'm super excited.
I disagree with the people that act like having expectations is a bad thing, though.
Oh, I mean, me too. Yeah, I didn't.
Like last year, there was this whole thing it's good that there's in the Super Bowl aspiration. No, it's better when the team has Super Bowl aspirations because it means that your odds of watching a good team are much higher.
Yeah,
in watching a mediocre team, there's nothing worse, and it's frustrating, and it's like being 500 is a bad place to be. It's not interesting.
Yeah.
You aren't looking ahead. You're close enough to where you're holding on. You aren't bottoming out. It's just kind of being stuck in the middle is not a good place to be. So I think personally the expectation should be decently high this year. They've operated as if they're a team that thinks that they can win a lot of games.
Yeah.
They were able to make some aggressive finishing moves that really weren't expensive. Jarvis Landry was kind of like a one of those, but adding him to your team kind of says something, even though the contract kind of says something else. But I think that the expectation should be that they should get in the playoffs and win at least a game. I mean, I think that's kind of where the bar should be.
I think that's the culture. I think that's the culture that they set though on this team. If you want to watch a non-stress free team,
that team doesn't exist. Surely.
Jacksonville is east, Cleveland is north, right? Just year after year, these teams are picking top 5. But that's just not the team and the organization that they've built, right?
I mean, I think if you're one of those teams that are bad and you care about your team, though, that's stressful. The only way to actually not have stress associated with the team is to be completely apathetic and not care, and then you're probably not really watching.
Well, the people that want a stress-free football, that's kind of what they were asking for, mediocrity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't get that at all. I mean, I'm excited. If you're just on the other side of the, just across the street from the Superdome or close to Superdome, you look at the Pelicans, that team is going to be really exciting this year because of expectations, right? And just, when you have a good roster and a good team, and expectations are fun, man. I mean, hell, I'll be honest. More people listen to us when expectations are high, right? I mean, we get more interactions with fans. It's more fun to cover the team. Tuesdays nights are a lot more fun when Mike Thomas is on the field versus, the wide receivers they ran out there last year. So I love this. I love this. I'm looking forward to the season, and football can't get here soon enough. And it's funny. I was talking to someone the other day. They were like, "Yeah, football starts in," I think they were saying late August, September. And I was like, "Oh yeah, you one of them." Football starts in 2 weeks for me.
Yeah.
It's here basically. So
yeah, it does. It does. I mean, for the whole city, it starts in 2 weeks. I mean, there's just a whole different vibe. When the season starts, the excitement starts ramping up. Started training camp is always, for me, that's more exciting than week one. It's just. You're kind of starting
game.
Well, no, I mean, you're unwrapping the present, man. You're answering the questions. That's the most interesting time of the season. And then by week one, everything's kind of set, and there really isn't too many mysteries to unfold. So
yeah,
July 27th, I'm walking out there. First thing I'm doing, I'm breaking my neck looking for 13. If I see 13, then you start shifting the eyes on and figuring out some of the answers to these lingering questions. We'll get into all that stuff, and we got 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So yeah. So we'll save the camp preview for the camp preview and start getting into these extension topics here.
Yeah. Well, I will say, when things get started, make sure you guys are subscribed to the website because it will be a ton of content there, and that's just how we roll. Before we get started, are you in camp shape? That's the main question everybody want to know.
I mean, man, I was on vacation walking like 10 miles a day every day, so I'm good, man.
You
I'm
good?
good.
All right,
I'm
all right.
good.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm
that heat
ready.
is
I'm ready.
it's mild
No,
over
I'm
there.
ready. I'm
All
ready,
right,
man.
all
I'm
right,
ready.
all right.
I was
I'm
in a
with you.
place hotter than New Orleans for a good period of time, so I'm ready, man. I'm ready. I'm good to
All
go.
right. Just
I
let
was
me
out
know.
today. I walked 2 miles to the cafe to get breakfast, man. Like
All
I'm
right,
ready.
all
I'm
right.
good to go. Yeah. I'm in top
People
shape
want to
this year.
know, man.
Yeah.
People want to
No,
know.
look, during the COVID, like it was a little, there was like a 2-year period there. Like, I wasn't, we were away from the facility. I wasn't working out as I should have. I'm good
Using
to
that
go, man.
James
Yeah,
Harden, using that
I'm
James Harden
I'm good to
preseason
go.
shape.
I'm good to go, man. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to hit it. We're good, man. We're
All
good.
right, man. Don't be rolling out there like rookie year Pete.
Nah, nah,
Just
nah. I'm good,
struggling
man.
from
I'm
the
ready to
rip,
go.
bro.
I'm ready to go.
All right, well, we ready to go. I'm ready to get into these topics. I think this is a fun pod. We're pretty much gonna spend the whole pod on it, and I think it's just a good topic to kind of cover. So, you kind of teed it up. Who should the Saints lock up long term? And it could be from within the confines of maybe right now or after the season, et cetera, right? There's no bounds to this, but just kind of addressing those questions and, if they should let it play out the season or sign guys early. So we'll cover all those different areas for every player. I think I'd be remiss not to start at Marcus Davenport and just tee it up for you. Go.
So what about him? Like, what are we?
How do you think that they should approach his potential contract extension? Right, it is not. He doesn't have one. This is his last year. He's playing on the final year of his rookie year deal, the fifth year, etc. And so, this is a productive player. They got. I'm just quoting you right here. They nailed the talent evaluation. Right. I think we can all agree that they nailed that. Now there are some other aspects to that draft pick that goes into it. The injury history is obviously being pretty much the only other thing. I think that's the only question about him as a player. Can he be on the field? I don't think there's really too many other questions. You could make a case that he's the best player on defense. Dennis Allen seems to think that, and he's the defensive coordinator last year and head coach this year. So, how do you think they should approach it, right? Do you say, hey, this is a young guy who we know what he is. We feel like he can turn the corner on health. We want to sign him right now. Or do you say, hey, we need to see you in a full season? And it's, Davenport and his agent, they have a decision to make too, right? You've been injured. Do you want to maybe take a contract that may be a little bit less you can get on the open market, but it gives you some guaranteed, or do you want to take a chance on yourself? So just kind of looking at it from both sides, like how do you, your thoughts on that whole contract situation?
So I think with Davenport, and I think we touched on this before. I think the best approach probably for him is to go through the season, show what he can do, stay healthy, get 12 sacks, 15 sacks, 18 sacks. Like I don't know what the sky's the limit for him really, production wise, if he stays healthy for 17 games. For the Saints, I think it's difficult, man. I think it's a really hard evaluation. Like, what do you pay him? When do you do it? I think talent wise, it's easy. The availability, I think, is a huge issue, and that's something that has to kind of come into play with it. And I kind of look back at the Toronto Armstead situation where that had nothing to do with the talent. The thing for them is that they felt where they were at in regards to the cap, how close they play it, they couldn't afford to risk paying a player who wasn't going to be on the field, so they let him go. And that's kind of where you see the cap squeeze. It's what are you paying per snap basically, and
just
what
one
you're
quick
about.
thing on that. I mean, you could look at Mike Thomas in a similar example, right? The wide receiver room was down a couple of years because he wasn't
Submarined
on
it,
the
yeah,
field.
absolutely, 100%. So they got to figure out that place that it's a comfortable place to exist with him. I think that he's worth keeping around. I think it would be extremely painful to let him go, and then he figures out his health issues somewhere else, and you see him succeed and put up all these numbers for another team. So what's the number? Like, where do you pay him? I think, you're looking at Cam Jordan. He makes what, 17.5 million per season. I don't know that you can pay Davenport more than that. I think his talent is probably at this point in their careers higher than Cam's. Cam has better production and better availability. So those flashes on film, I don't think you can pay him more than Cam Jordan. Then you look at Trey Hendrickson. He kind of had one good season, got 15 million. for Davenport, I think you kind of got to play out the year, because if you do have a good season, you stay healthy, that kind of money's on the table then, I think. And I think you look at that trade deal. But if you do it right now, you look at that trade deal and it's okay, man. Like you average like 11 games a year or whatever it is. Like you can't pay this right now. So then where do you look? Like, do you look at the floor? Is it Clowney, who had, I think, 9.5 sacks last year, played probably a similar number of games? If you're Davenport, like taking $10 million doesn't make sense. If you're the Saints, I think a $10 million deal right now would look really good. And I think that's probably fair with upside. You
He's
give him
worth $10 million a year if he plays 11 games a season.
He's worth $10 million
Yeah.
a year easy. But like you
Yeah.
give him maybe that base. If you were to do it right now, like if you're the Saints, maybe you give him that base and then there's a games played bonus on top of it that allows him to get up to the 15 million where Hendrickson's at or something like that. But if you do that deal now, I think you have to protect yourself against it. But the other thing with that is doing the deal now is probably the only point where you would have the leverage to protect yourself against some of those injuries. If you allow him to hit the market, somebody else is going to be willing to pay him without those protections. And I don't know that you can get him in the contract. So you would have to take that on, I think, before he hits the market. It's a fascinating situation to me with him, just because the talent is just so immense. In this is the Marcus Davenport podcast. So like if you're still on the other side of that argument, like just not like we aren't having the same conversation anymore.
Yeah.
It's fine. We can agree to disagree, but yeah, this is the Marcus Davenport podcast. The talent, I think he's one of the better, more talented pass rushers in like the whole league. Like if you're talking,
He's showing it, man. He's showing it. Yeah,
play
he's showing it.
versus him and the best.
I'm not hedging
I
don't feel like I know. Like I feel like before with Davenport, it was always like explaining why he's so good. Like I'm, like that's over. Like we don't. It's just all injury at this point, right? It's no more questions about that. So let's walk through it a little bit. I'll say this: if I'm Davenport, I don't want nothing to do with a contract right now. I'll be honest with you, unless it's the money that I feel like the money I feel like I would want or deserve, right? And I'm pretty sure they're looking at something. If I'm Davenport's agent, I'm like, hey man, just stay healthy. We'll get you 20 plus this year, right? That's what premium pass rushers get. And so if I'm him and I'm his camp, I have no interest in the contract unless it's at the number that I want as a player. If I'm the Saints, I feel a little bit different, right? I think there's a number where you feel comfortable with his injury history, and then there's a number where you don't. And I just think you have to figure out what that number is, right? And so, like, question for you: would you sign him for 12 million a year, APY?
right now? Yeah, I probably do. I think 12 is probably
14.
It's tough, man. It's tough. You're getting to that point then where that availability is 14 straight up, no conditions.
14. I mean, nothing is guaranteed in the NFL, but yeah, I mean, this ain't the NBA. It's not like, you can only put so much injury protection in there, so many bonuses, right? I think, yeah, if it's a 14 million a year deal for 5 years, the first 3 years, you can probably get out of the deal. I mean, the contract structure.
There's so many things here. I mean, there's so many things here. Like where's Peyton Turner at? Like I think if Peyton Turner's solid, healthy, gonna be what he is, gonna be a good player, can eventually succeed one of these guys, as the successor of one of those positions. I think investing in Davenport becomes a little bit easier then, because now you have a rookie that's talented behind him and you only need one more depth piece. Now, if you have questions about Peyton Turner, I think the investment you make in Marcus Davenport becomes a little bit more scary, because now if he's hurt and Peyton Turner doesn't pan out, all of a sudden you're in a situation where you don't have any pass rushers, you don't have any resources, and now you have to spend at the top of the market to get your Davenport level player. So look, I have belief in Peyton Turner. I think Peyton Turner is going to be really good. I think he's gonna settle into that role. But I think if you had that visual evidence right now, it becomes easier to make that investment in Davenport, because you backstopped it with a player that doesn't cost you anything. So now you can go out and maybe get a Clowney to fill the gaps, or a player of that level where you aren't looking for a first round top level solution at first round top level solution prices on the open market.
So 14 is a no-fly zone for you.
I
That's a little
wouldn't
bit too
say
rich.
that. I wouldn't say that. I think it when you start getting above 10 to 12 without like a games played threshold to earn the rest of the money, I think that's where you start getting into, this is tough. Like you're basically paying Cam the equivalence of $1 million per game, and if you're paying 14 million to a guy, now you're paying more per game, which again I think his talent deserves it, but at some point that availability has to factor into the overall cost, and I think that's where it starts to get tough when you start getting that Trey Hendrickson Cam level money. You gotta have answers for it, and I think their comfort with his
His
that
finger.
the health and knowing what's going on and exactly what the issues have been, and are they preventable? Is there a risk for repeat? I think when you start getting into those numbers that put a guy near the top of the league per year, which is crazy. Like you look at Aaron Donald, it's like 31 million per
I was
year, and
about to
then like
say
on the edge, it's like Cam's near the top at like 17.5 million. But yeah, I mean,
Joey Bosa, the Bosa kid, is making like 30,
yeah,
like from the Chargers. Like, I
like
mean, just
there was like a resetting of like
oh my
every
gosh,
position, and now there's like, and that's new cap coming. Really is kind of, or new TV deal coming is kind of what that is.
man, this software engineering stuff, I made the wrong decision. Should have been an edge rusher, man.
Man, you weren't making it as an NFL edge rusher.
All
Software
right.
engineer was your only option if these are the two things on the table. There was only one thing on the table.
I could have been
There was a
I could have been
picture.
a
There was a picture of an NFL player in the background, and software engineer was the only thing being served.
I could have been a slot corner. Come on, I could have been a slot corner.
Ah,
I'm Jason.
alright,
Me and Jason Verrett are the same size. Hey, come on, man, give me a little bit.
come
but
on, man.
but I'll say this.
Me
I
and Drew
think
Brees are the same size. I'm not an NFL quarterback. It just doesn't mean anything.
yeah, you guys both blonde, blue eyes. Yeah, man, you could have been it. There you go. Right?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
so.
you did the wrong thing, wrong part of football. um, my stance on it is, and I'm a little bit more. I'm a risk taker, man. Just by nature, me as a person, I don't know. I don't know. It's just my nature, and that's how I am. Risking, no biscuit, right? I would sign him to a contract for $15 million a year if I can get him to sign that right now. I think I would take if I feel good about his pinky, right? That's the open
I
question
don't
I
think the
have.
pinky's an issue.
Well, I just don't know enough about it to say if it is or it isn't, right? You know more than me. So if the pinky checks out,
I'm just thinking about it. Like if you fold the pinky down, like I don't think anything's
I don't
changing
know,
in the
bro.
pass rush.
If when I listen, if you take my pinky away and I'm lifting weights, I'm in trouble. I'm just letting you know I can't. I'm in trouble. Like that one little pinky is like it does a lot for me, right? So I just don't know how it affects him and what he does, and it's just an unknown for me. But if you feel good about that and there's nothing else lingering, I think I just take a chance on a mega talented young guy who can maybe turn. And even if he misses 4 games a season, right? You just hope that they're. I don't know, right? It's definitely risky, but if he's healthy, man, that is a home run, right? Because if he's healthy, then he's a
Yeah,
he's gonna be one of those guys, right? And so, and if you're, and like I said, if I'm Davenport, I don't touch it because even if he plays 11 games this season and he has the same year he had last year and he hits the open market, someone's gonna pay him because
that's
that's
what I'm
just the
saying. He'd be
NFL.
crazy to sign right now. He'd be
He
crazy to
would
sign
be
right now. But if the Saints are doing it now, they got to try to use their leverage. They got to try to get something back. And
right.
when you sign a guy now before they hit the market, there's always a few $1 million off the top. You don't get the max out because you get the
Yeah,
protections. And I think we said this before. Like I think even if everything goes wrong for Davenport and he
he
hits the
gets
open
paid.
market,
He
he's
gets
getting
paid.
paid what he's getting paid right
Yeah,
now. So
yeah.
I think you gamble, you go through the season, you show the upside, and you're up in that stratosphere if you have a healthy season and
Oh
do
man,
what you did last
what do
year
you
over the
think?
span of 17
So
games.
so a couple of questions to that point. Last year Davenport. Well, just one question. Forget it. Like if he has the same production he has last year and he plays a full season, what do you think that contract will look like?
Like 9.5 sacks over 17 games.
Well, no, I mean, well, extrapolate out. it maybe it's like
yeah,
13 or something.
he's top of the market. He's up there. I mean, there's going to be some correction for the availability, kind of the same way I think there was with Tehran. Differences is that Davenport's younger, so you can talk yourself into
Yeah, I think
this upside a little bit more. So I don't think you get hit as hard as he did, just hitting the open market due to those games played. But overall, I mean, I think that yeah, that number's huge. It's massive. It's
it's a big
not
number.
15 million. It's not like I think he's in the 20
No,
millions. Yeah.
yeah, he's over 20. Yeah, and that's why if I'm the Saints, I feel like even if I get him for, even if he just, yeah, I feel like the risk is there, right? If I can get him for if I can get him from like under 20 is just a lot. If I can get him for 15, like right now, then I think I would just do it, because I think that if he's healthy, if he's worth 23, right? If he's a little hurt, maybe he's worth 15, right? And so it just feels like something I would be willing to do. But I don't see him being signed. To be honest with you, if he has that year, then he's probably gonna get franchised, right? I just think that it's hard to. And I guess let's finish on that question. If you're the Saints, and two part, if you're the Saints and just whatever you think will really happen, how do you think what they paid to get him, how do you think that fits into just those negotiations, right? Like, man, we gave up 2 first round picks. Do you think that matters, or you think it's like
That's something. I think that's something his agent would try to use, but I don't think it's something that ultimately affects the overall decision. But yeah, if you're Davenport's agent, you're putting that in there. Oh, you already invested this in him. Are you really going to let this guy go? Is it worth losing 2 first round picks over $2.5 million or something like that? Yeah, I think you try to use that as leverage, but I don't think that's Saints don't care, man. Like that's
the
cross policy right there.
Yeah, mate, that's true. That's fair. The number one thing, if I was Davenport's agent, I would say when I'm at the negotiating table, I'd have that quote from Dennis Allen saying he's probably the best player on our defense. That would be I would just put that on the table and slide it over and say, where are we? Like, what can we do? Can we make this happen? So yeah, that's going to be a big one. David Onyemata is kind of a sneaky guy that they're going to have to do something with, right? And I don't think I've heard many or anyone talk about, his pending free agency. So what's your thoughts on him? And I guess the same type of question, right? I guess that's going to be the same way we approach all of these, but like, how do you approach that contract situation?
I'd be comfortable probably signing him right now. I don't really think that there's a lot of downside or risk with any of that. And then, the guys that I kind of look at for him, like Fletcher Cox, maybe 14 million. Javon Hargrave, similar sack numbers. He got
330. He got 330 last time.
It's about 14 million per. I'm not
sure. Dave, his first contract on Onyemata, I think it was like 330.
Yeah,
right?
I think he's probably in line probably for an uptick on that. Just the whole market's kind of come up a little bit. But Javon Hargrave, I think, is somebody that's kind of like an interesting comp for him. He had 6.5 sacks one year, was down in some other years. Their pressure numbers, if you look at them, are pretty similar. Hargrave
Hargrave's making what?
He's making 13 million per. So I mean, I think somewhere in that 13 to 14 million dollar range is probably where it should be. But again, now if you're on Onyemata, what do you do? Do you take it through the season? Do you see if, like, I thought his pressure numbers, maybe the quality of pressure was a little bit better last year, but the sack numbers weren't necessarily there. Like, do you take it through the season of having, if you bet on healthy Cam, healthy Davenport, Peyton Turner playing well, if you're David Onyemata, your sack number is probably going up if 2 of those 3 things hit.
Yeah, that's fair.
Whereas last year you were kind of playing with just one of those things hitting. So if the whole line's better, if the coverage is good, Paulson Adebo is going to be another year older. Like, all these things are kind of going hand in hand to set up a situation where you might get back to 6.5, 7, 8 sacks. And if you do, what's that payday look like at the end of the season? So my answer for all these is going to be similar. And it's the same thing going back to really the Alvin debate a few years ago that we kind of had. I'm always going to say that I think it's better for a player to take it to the limit, because, like, if things work out, you're getting paid. And if your talent's real and things work out, you're getting paid. If your talent's real and things don't work out, you're probably not losing that much. If you're a one-year wonder, you have no production, there's really no track record, and then you try to go year 2 and you get hurt, you're going to suffer. But I think
Yeah.
David Onyemata at this point is pretty
He is who
solidified. I
he
think
is.
people
Yeah,
know
people
who
know.
he is, and if he has an injury, I don't think he's hurting too bad.
Yeah, that's fair.
Off that. So if things work out for him, I think, like I said, top of the
It's gonna
market's
be
like
a
30 million. So if you
well,
have like
I
a
don't know if that I don't think 30 is the top
right,
of the market for a defensive tackle. I
right,
think
but I mean
that Donald
there's a big
contract
gap
is
between there's like 30 million, a huge drop, and then like there's this cluster of people that are like 13, 14 million. Like I think he can settle somewhere between, that 14 and 21 or something like that. Like if he has
yeah.
another really
The
good season.
has the kid from Jeffrey Simmons, has he signed with the Titans yet? Has he been extended?
I think he just got an extension. Yeah, I don't know
'Cause
what it was.
so I would consider him or Grady Jarrett like top of the market DTs. Aaron Donald is like we're not even talking about that contract. It was I'm not doing. He just raised the franchise tag number like significantly. So he's making a lot of defensive tackles a lot of money if anyone gets the tag. But yeah, I think those two guys. That him and Grady Jarrett. I know Grady Jarrett. I think he signed his last offseason or maybe at the end of the season. I forget exactly when it was. Like you got some information.
No, actually, the Simmons changed agents. He didn't. He didn't.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I remember hearing
Yeah,
something about it. Yeah, something about it. But I know Grady Jarrett signed relatively recently. So he would be, and I'm
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
think
yeah.
of
He actually signed with my guy Paul from Louisiana, up and coming agent.
hey,
So yeah,
hey, there we
he's
go.
a great dude. One of the,
Nice,
he's going to show it on the steel too. So
nice,
um,
nice,
yeah,
nice.
gotta show love to the New Orleans people
Local
on
people, yeah.
NewOrleans.Football. Yeah.
All day, all day, all day. Um, but yeah, and I don't see him coming in at Grady Jarrett's number, by the way. Grady Jarrett's a much better pass rusher than David Onyemata is. But, you know, I'm not really sure exactly what to do with that contract, right? If you just ask me, because it just feels like I'm waiting for him to have a really, really, really good year. And I think we know who he is as a player, and he's a really good player at this point. I think his play is better than maybe what a lot of people see, like statistically. But I do think that, he's not like a guy who's going to just be a dominant pass rusher, right? And that's not who he is, and that's not the player I think he's going to be. So yeah, that's a little bit of an interesting one, but I do think that there is an effect with that position because there's nobody else really behind him at defensive tackle, right? And so I think even right now, you would probably say defensive tackle is one of the weaker positions on this team, along with maybe running back, tight end, etc. But yeah, it's a little bit tricky. That contract is a little bit tricky, but but he's available too, right? Compared to Davenport, where he's someone who, I mean, he was suspended a little bit last year, but it's not a health thing. So that's a tough contract. That's a tough contract. I'm probably in line with you. I think he did 3 for 30 last time, and I think maybe the same place in the market, but just with inflation, right? And maybe that's 13, maybe that's 14 million. And I think that'd be a fair place for him to land as someone who, he's a good player. They need him. He knows the system. You know what you're going to get with him, but he's not like a dominant player at that position. So
I do think that he'd probably be like a notch below Simmons.
oh
yeah,
yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah, notch below him, man. Oh, now yeah. I mean, Simmons
yeah,
is an animal.
yeah,
Yeah, I would trade
yeah.
David Onyemata for Simmons. Like I would
Easy.
I would
Yeah,
trade Simmons for
yeah,
Davenport
yeah.
probably because Simmons is. I mean, he's available. He is a. Oh my gosh, I love watching that dude play, man. Um, d- do you think there's a correlation between the potential Davenport contract and the potential Onyemata contract?
Mm, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that they're gonna have their resources, and I don't think you look at it like got one, so the other one can go or something like that. I think it's
Mhm.
two very different positions, and if you don't have that interior player, especially with the way that their influx of 3-man lines, like I think that position's even more important, and it kind of puts more importance on having edge rushers too that can kind of win dominantly. So I don't think so. I think they're pretty independent of one another, and yeah, I don't think that they'll play too much upon one another. I think they're kind of independent and
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think they
I
need both though, honestly. Like I
oh
don't think you can
yeah.
let either one go. Yeah.
I don't either. I don't think you can let either one of those guys go. I just think that, I've heard, I mean, this is not new, but you do want to protect the middle of your defense, right? And that's defensive tackles, linebackers, a good safety back there, right? And that's kind of that's the NFL game is played in the middle of the field versus college where it's played outside the hash mark. So having good guys down the middle of your defense is pretty important. So, if you let him go, then what's your answer at defensive tackle? Now you're going into the draft next year with a major, et cetera, right? We know how that goes. So all right, so this is the hardest. This may be the toughest guy to figure out what's going to happen with this contract. And I'm gonna just tee up a couple of hot points, hot takes with it, and we'll see where we get with it. But Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Okay, so his position is slot cornerback. Slot cornerbacks don't make a lot of money in the NFL, right? There's just not a position that's highly that guys make a lot of money on. Some I've seen him listed as a safety. Safeties get paid, a little bit more than slot cornerbacks, right? So I think that's the first thing with this contract. I think I'm gonna just leave it there for you, right? Like, what position does this guy get? Like, if they had to
He
franchise
played
tag
9
him,
no, he played 9 stops at safety.
right? Okay, so he's a cornerback.
I think he's a cornerback, yeah.
So when you're negotiating with him, do you look at slot cornerbacks or do you look at
9
is it
snaps at free
somewhere in
safety.
between?
9 snaps at free safety. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
as safety. So how do you approach this contract? Do you say, hey, all right, you're the best slot. Just all right, we'll pay you as the best slot corner in NFL. Here's 14, 13, 12, $13 million a year, right? Or does he want, is it like, no, I'm a
I think there
for
needs
him,
to be a correction at the position, honestly. Like if you look, it's an important position. Every team plays 11 personnel now on offense, 3 wide receivers. That means your slot cornerback's a very important piece of your defense. You need to have good players there, or you're going to get eaten up. This idea that like slot receivers are lesser than outside receivers is stagnant and outdated. And frankly, I think the guys that are like strictly slot wide receivers themselves, there needs to be a market correction there because there's just more value out of those spots than there used to be. But it is it's weird to talk about it in these terms, but I mean, it is like a fairly new trend since probably 14 years or so. So I mean, it's kind of been around for a while, and this should have already happened. But I think it's at the point where everything has shifted to the point where this is how the game is played. This is the primary thing, and I think all these things need a course correction. And I think Kenny Moore is probably at the forefront of trying to reset that market. And I think what happens with him, the
is he a
dominoes are
free
going to
agent?
fall. He was holding out their mini camp in that for a new contract. He's
That's one to
making
watch.
$8 million a year, which
How
is
much?
nuts. I mean, $8 million a year, which is nuts for a guy that's a top player at that position. Like, yeah, granted, you can't. And I'm not speaking for CJ or Kenny Moore or anybody else, but like theoretically, if you are strictly a slot corner, yeah, maybe you can't go on the outside and cover Mike Evans, but not everybody that can cover Mike Evans can come inside and match up with the speedy, twitchy, quick to open the door type of wide receivers that play on the inside. So it's a specific skill set that you got to have. You got to be able to tackle really well. Not everybody that plays on the outside can tackle well. Not all those guys can be, somebody that's not just an asset in run defense, but just not a vulnerability. Like I don't know that you can put every corner there. So I think that these prices do need to go up. I don't think that $8 million for somebody that's a primary player on your defense is really fair. I think that's way too low. I think then you go down the list like Mike Hilton, another guy really good, $6 million a year. Teron Johnson in Buffalo, $8 million per year. So I think these things they got to get fixed. I mean, those numbers got to get fixed, and
Chauncey ain't signing for under 10.
and
Right.
he shouldn't. He shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
You should.
it,
I agree. I agree
yeah,
with you.
yeah, just regardless, like he's a player that's worth $10 million to have on your defense. Easy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know where those numbers go. I don't know if they get the slot corners to, Marshawn Lattimore level deal, but it needs to go. That first number can't be a single digit like that. If you're the top of the market at a position that plays, 90+% of the snaps matching up against skill position players, you got to have a double-digit number in the front, and it's just where does that fall in there? I mean, I do think that these guys like kind of need to go into this with the mentality of like we're fixing this for everybody, in not just myself, but it should be fixed for them as well. But they gotta play some hardball, man, and it's gonna make a very interesting situation, I think, for the Saints. He's a player that brings a lot to the team. I don't know where it ends up, honestly. I think this is the hardest one to gauge because, it's a matter of like changing something in the league and a guy getting what he deserves.
Yeah, this is by far the toughest contract to figure out. And I'm going to try to make a point here. I'm going to be short about it. And I'm not saying that he is this player, but like if I was to say, Nick, who's the best cornerback in the NFL, what would you say?
Best cornerback in the NFL, Jalen Ramsey.
Okay, exactly. But I think Jalen Ramsey is also the most unique cornerback in the NFL, right? Because sometimes he'll play outside. But for the most part, the Rams don't really use him that way, right? They use him in this hybrid safety linebacker slot position, right? And so I think that that's one of those positions where, like, I can see that being like a trendy position in the NFL, right? I can see that, and it just with the uptick of coverage quarters, of quarters coverage, having a guy in that position, it just becomes like a lot more valuable, especially just based on like how the responsibilities for the coverage work, right? If you got a guy in the slot, then that slot that slot cornerback really like has no help in a lot of ways because a guy can be dealing with the safety begin dealing with a streaking wide receiver in the inside position on like a 2x2 set or whatever. So it long story short, like I think that Chauncey's more than just a slot corner, right? And that's how I view him. Like when you say slot corner, I think he's different from the Kenny Moores and the Mike Hiltons too. I think he is a different type of slot corner than those guys, right? You have these big wide receivers like Cooper Kupp is basically a tight end on how the Rams use him. Like literally, they use him like a tight end, right? He blocks and so if you got a small slot on there, then you're at a disadvantage. Versus if you have someone like Chauncey, like like a slot cornerback has 3 jobs, right? It's to be able to tackle, play a two-way go, and blitz, and he basically does all 3 of them for this defense, and he does it at a relatively high level. So this contract is going to be the most interesting one to me. Is really confusing. I don't know how to put a value on him. I know it's more than the single digit.
Well, it's impossible to put a value on him, because the whole market's just not. It's messed up. Yeah.
And he plays a position that he plays slot cornerback different than the other highest paid slot cornerbacks, right? He plays slot cornerback kind of like, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying they're the same players, but there's some similarities in how Ramsey is used on the Rams.
I think the difference is though is that you can drop,
Ramsey's a best player in the NFL defensive. I'm not saying they're the same. Yeah. I'm definitely not saying they're the same, but they're just deployed similar ways. And I just don't know what to do with the contract. It's just a big open question to me. Yeah. I could see it, but I will say that one thing that is tricky, and I was thinking about, just like the like, man, could they franchise tag him? But then it hit me like, oh, he's going to get the corner franchise. It's no slot franchise tag number, right? So that tag number is going to be that what you would give a regular cornerback, which you kind of adds a level of complexity to it. So, yeah, that's just one to watch. To me, that's like the most interesting contract situation, on the Saints' entire team. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, moving forward, let's go Erik McCoy. What do you do with that one? I don't think there's a lot. There's not a lot of nuance and detail with that one.
I'd pay him if I could. Yeah, I'd pay him if I could. I think he's good.
Do you think he's top center in the market, reset the market good?
I'm going to be honest. Like, I don't study NFL centers like that to know. Like, I just know he's good. He's solid. He's athletic. And, if they can get him at a number they like, they should keep him.
Yeah. I don't think they can afford to lose him, to be honest with you. I think
that's another point. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that like Ruiz, you just hope he becomes average at this point. Almost like Pete is probably average at best. But that's not fair. I think he's really good at some things, but he's inconsistent a lot of times, right? And I think that I'll say I don't think he played up to the contract they gave him. Right. That's how I put that. Even though I do think he's a good player and they need him this year, but I think that when you give a guy what's $13 million a year, I think you expect him to be better than what he's played in. So, but if you got two guards who you don't feel really great about, and you lose your center, I just think that creates too much friction on the offensive line. And I think that's a group that basically this team rises and falls as that group plays. So I think that's an important position. Okay, yeah, it didn't take long on McCoy. Jarvis Landry is an interesting one. When is the soonest they can extend him? And this is just hypothetical, right? He may have a horrible year.
He's just got to play out the season. Like, there's no way that like, where do you even start with that? He got paid so low. Like, he's here to have a good season and hit the market again. So I don't even think that's even a thing that's gonna happen. I mean, I think he just kind of has to go through the year and then see where it's at the end of the season. But that number is just so ridiculously low that it's not even really worth like getting into the conversation. Like, he's here for a very specific purpose, and I don't think that happens anytime.
Yeah, I have no idea what his number should be. I was just wondering, like, is there a time when they can't extend him if they chose to versus if they, it was just a hypothetical question. Like, I don't know if they can extend guys if they signed the contract that recently.
I mean, you look at the receiver market, like he's way better than he should have been. He was kind of hurt last year in a bad situation. He comes in, he does what he's got to do. It's, the money's there. He's gonna get a payday, probably like a nice 2-year deal somewhere after this year if things go as hoped. And it's not going to be 2 years, $6 million. It's probably going to be 2 years, 30, 36, something like that.
Lands. Yeah. With
so like, how do you even negotiate? You can't even negotiate that right now because like it's going to be just such a far off thing that it's just. You just gotta let it play out and revisit it at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, like I said, I just had a question about if they could extend him, and it's a fun thing to talk about. This is one that you've done some reporting on, Deonte Harty and his contract situation. Like,
they're so far apart. It's hard to even have like the conversation. Like, it's just at this point, like, this is a couple week old information at this point, but like. Unless something has drastically changed over the last few weeks, like my feeling is that this probably isn't something that's going to happen in season.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess, obviously they'd be looking for another punt returner / kickoff returner / deep ball wide receiver. But yeah, he's someone to keep an eye on. Yeah, they're going to have some free agents after the season, man. When you go through this list and look at some of the guys they're going to have to address, like, I can understand.
For the record, like I think Deonte is someone that they should try to keep around if there's a reasonable compromise somewhere. Like I think he's dynamic. I like the aspects he adds to the offense, especially when the structure's around him to where he can just kind of really be in that type of role. I think one of the disconnects here though is that he sees himself as somebody that can do more on offense and, kind of the production there per reception and all that. Like it speaks to that. So, I think that's kind of one of the issues that they got to try to figure out and overcome. And I don't know if he's going to have, those opportunities to prove that he should be paid as a wide receiver, even though I think he's capable of doing all that stuff. And he showed it last year. And I don't think anyone that watched his team last year would argue that he wasn't their most talented wide receiver. I mean, I really think he was, but he's just, unique in some of the stuff that he can do. But I thought he was kind of answering some of those questions too, but I just don't know if that's the role that he's gonna end up in. So I think maybe you got to go out, you got to see what the market dictates to kind of set that value, and then maybe the Saints are wrong, maybe Deonte's wrong, maybe they're both a little bit wrong, and there's that meeting in the middle. But I think that you have to get more opinions on this specific situation to kind of maybe gauge what the value is, because the two sides just kind of see it a little bit differently. And they're seeing it the way that's most advantageous to them monetarily. But I do think that the team values him. I mean, they'd be crazy not to. And I think Deonte likes his role here and everything based on everything, that we've seen and heard. But yeah, I think it's just one of those ones where it's kind of like, do you pay him Valdez Scantling money or do you just pay him returner money? And I don't know, maybe maybe he should be worth Valdez Scantling money. But it's just kind of
Valdez Scantling. Oh, go ahead.
it's just a tough situation because he is just a unique player, and I think it's just hard to gauge. I don't even know where I'd put that value myself. It's just so hard to do it in the I think his talent says one thing, but his role is gonna be different. And what is that worth? And
Availability is
yeah.
another one that kind of plays a part into it.
And I don't know if that full time receiver role exists somewhere else either for him. I don't know. I just it's a difficult one to figure out.
Yeah, I don't really see him as a volume receiver, but I see him as a piece of a receiving group.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't see him as Tyreek Hill. I mean, put it like that, right? I see him as, and then, there may be a little overlap with Olave, but not. I think Olave obviously gives you a lot more, and we'll see, if he's the deep ball. I mean, theoretically, he should be the deep ball threat that Deonte is. Obviously, he's fast and can track the ball really well and has great hands. But yeah, if you're the Saints, right, and you just drafted Olave, if you got Olave on the team, maybe you look, it just I don't know. It feels like that maybe that's a guy that they may not come to terms with at some point in the future. But we don't know how to. Like, if you sign Deonte, does that mean that you can't close the gap between what you and Davenport or you and Onyemata are trying to negotiate?
Who's your quarterback? Right? I think there's just a lot of things that go into it. If Jameis remains your quarterback, he has that season, the 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, whatever. Whatever you need to do to commit to him. I think Deonte's someone that should absolutely be a part of that puzzle because, we saw it, the deep ball between those two, really good. I think you got to find a way to get him on, get Deonte those 10, 12 snaps per game just so that you can take that, single shot or 2 shots per game or whatever it is.
It matters.
But if you have a different type of quarterback, I don't know. Does it fit the same? There's just a lot of unanswered questions. I think this is one. Going back to the thing, I think really though, truly both sides have to go through the season, and I think you probably, unless there's something that happens to bring everybody to the table and it closes that gap, I think it's one where it's just kind of all right, figure out, get some opinions at the combine or whatever, and we'll talk about this before free agency and see if we can figure something out.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. He's kind of in the same boat with Davenport. Just play out the season and stay healthy, and then see what your market looks like at the end of the year.
I think what Davenport's worth, though.
Yeah.
I think you need 3 or 4 teams to kind of tell you what Deonte's actually worth, so that you're kind of creating a market. Whereas with Davenport, it's just where does he slot into a market?
Yeah, I mean, I know Davenport is worth a lot. I just don't know how much a lot is. I don't know if Harty's worth a lot, or if he work. I mean, obviously it's not a lot. A lot is, but I don't know if he's a $5 million a year player or $12 million a year player. I have no idea where he fits in between there. Davenport. Yeah, I don't see a scenario where the guy gets under 50 unless he tears his Achilles or something crazy, right? But with Harty, I just struggle to place him in a certain price range, right? And that's probably why I'm not a GM. So I'm a slot corner. So
come on, man.
Me and Chauncey. All right, last guy. I say the best for last. Blake Gillikin, man. I mean, he's coming up. I think this is his 3rd year. This would be an early extension for him, but yeah, if he's a good. Listen, I don't really show special teams guys enough love, but I was looking at the contracts preparing for this pod, and I was like, okay, well, maybe he's a guy that can extend if he continues to play as well as he's played, and you kind of keep up the trend of good New Orleans punters.
I'd keep him if you could, yeah, for sure. He's been a weapon, and field positions so important. Yeah, that's not something that you, when you got one, you keep him. I think you find a way to keep him. He's a good player. If he stays healthy, he has another good year. Yeah,
especially with a good defense like that, make sure that just augments your deep. Those are 2 parts of the game that have a little bit of symbiosis, right? We have a good defense and a good punter, and it just kind of work off each other really well.
You can't spend $2 million a year on JT Gray and then get cheap with the punter. It makes no point. That's like the picture you see like on Twitter, like the Lamborghini like parked in the trailer park. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like
Well,
you
you know
gotta,
what I'm gonna say. You know what I'm gonna say. If you ain't got no rims, don't get no wood grain steering wheel. You know
There
I'm
you
an
go.
Outcast fan. You know, as soon as you started making your point, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, that's all we got. That's all we got. Man, it's good to be back. It's good to be potting again. Football is here in our minds. We're getting in football mode. Nick is he's been doing his miles walking, two miles to get a breakfast sandwich. Everybody got some sunscreen because it can get rough out there in the New Orleans heat for him. But man, we happy to be back. We happy that football is starting back. I'm super excited. You guys, if you are not signed up to NewOrleans.Football, there is a golden opportunity for you right now. Right? If you look on the screen, NewOrleans.Football/subscribe. Just pick whatever option that works best for you. I guarantee you that you will enjoy and you'll be happy that you subscribe to the site. That's like a 100% chance of you liking what you see if you like Saints and you like football. So that's the only way I can tell you guys to sign up, man. Literally. But long story short, thank you guys for supporting us. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. We out.
Nick and Kev, I got you. We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
As you can tell, last year it was an off year. But we reloaded and now it is our boss year. Seated back there and yeah, we got the badger. Don't forget Marshawn and don't forget the pass rush. Jameis QB1 dropping down to MT. Ball handed off the Alvin with the quick feet. So when you see the Saints marching, yeah, we gon' trouble you. At the Super Bowl party eating on them doubles. We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
We in the dome right now, we in the zone right now. Put your hands in the air, cause it's on right now. Yeah, we back up in this thing and we coming for the crown. Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.
Nick and Kev on the mic.
It's about to go down.